Hello, Leo. Tell me this. What if today is the exact moment the universe decided to shift everything in your favor? Would you recognize the signs? Or would you keep walking like nothing's changed? Welcome to Eternal Mindfulness, where your inner truth meets divine timing. This is not just another horoscope reading. This is a cosmic transmission tailored specifically for you, a Leo whose soul has been silently asking for more clarity, more purpose, more abundance, and yes, the biggest money blessing of your life. If you found yourself here, it's not random. Something deep within you aligned with this message. Your energy, your longing, your quiet prayers, they've summoned this moment. May 17, 2025, isn't just another day on the calendar. It's a spiritual threshold. You're not watching by accident, you're answering a call. I know it's been heavy lately. You've been holding it all together, smiling through things others couldn't survive. But listen closely, Leo, this isn't the season to hold back your light. It's the season to reclaim your crown, not out of ego, but from a place of soul-earned worthiness. And today, we're diving deep into what the stars, the tarot, and your inner compass are whispering. You're on the brink of a breakthrough. There is a surge of energy around your financial realm today. Not just money in your hand, but freedom in your future. With celestial movements amplifying your second house of value and abundance, you are being nudged, invited, to remember who you really are, a co-creator with the universe, not just a survivor of circumstance. We'll explore together what the Fool has to say about new beginnings, why the Empress wants you to nurture yourself like sacred soil, and how the devil isn't your enemy, but a mirror showing you what it's finally time to release. But before we dive into all of that, let me take a moment to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you for being here. Every like, every comment you leave, every new subscriber is not just helping Eternal Mindfulness grow, it's a ripple of light in the vast sea of souls looking for alignment. And believe me when I say this, Leo, your support makes this mission possible. If you haven't already, comment below with the angel number you've been seeing, or a number that just feels sacred to you today. That number isn't random. It's part of the message, part of your pattern, part of the alignment we're unlocking here together. And I'll tell you something, as someone who's read for countless signs over the years, Leo energy always shows up right when the world needs courage, when the path needs light. Maybe that's why you're here right now, not just to receive, but to remember your power to transform not only your own life, but to radiate that shift outward. So settle in. Let your breath slow. Let go of the need to have it all figured out. You've stepped into a sacred space, and you'll want to stay with me until the very last minute of this video. Because what the universe is revealing today is nothing short of magnificent. Now tell me, my radiant Leo, what part of you called this message into being today? When the wheel of fortune begins to turn, it doesn't do so with dramatic fanfare, but with a quiet certainty, like the first rays of sunlight melting the last traces of night. Leo, ruled by the sun, you are naturally drawn to illumination, to clarity, to truth. But before light can shine in full force, it must first pass through shadow. That's where you've been, navigating the subtler dimensions of uncertainty, perhaps doubting your path, your timing, or even your own worth. Yet here you are, standing in the presence of a new momentum, not because something outside of you shifted, but because something inside you has finally softened. And in that softening, a new beginning takes root. On May 17th, The moon's movement through your house of personal value and material security isn't just an astrological event, it's a mirror. A reflection of the tender yet powerful truth that your sense of worth doesn't need external confirmation. This is the moment you remember, you were never meant to wait to be chosen. You are the one who chooses. Your life, your path, your timing. No longer dependent on permission. This is what the alignment is whispering to you now. There's a quiet revolution taking place, not through resistance, but through recognition. The Fool, in the tarot, represents that sacred step into the unknown, the willingness to begin again, not because the past failed, but because something within you has outgrown the old ways. And the Empress, gently guiding your inner landscape, invites you to nurture the seeds of this new path without rushing the harvest. Together, they form a sacred polarity, action and allowance. Movement and mindfulness. You are not being told to leap blindly, Leo. You are being reminded to leap faithfully. This new cycle is not about starting over from nothing. It's about beginning again with the wisdom you've earned. You may see the angel numbers 1, 10, and 33 repeating around you, not just as lucky signs, but as encoded encouragements. The number 1 signals a powerful invitation to return to your authentic self. The number 10 represents completion and divine orchestration, an old cycle ending just as a new one appears. And 33, a master number, holds a higher vibration of creation and expansion, reminding you that your growth is not just personal, but also collective. You are being shaped not just for your own fulfillment, but to be a light for others as well. True change doesn't always begin with a loud declaration. Sometimes, it begins in stillness, with a quiet breath and the decision to respond differently. In the still water, we can see our reflection most clearly. And from that clarity, we begin to move with more grace. You don't have to rush to prove that you're ready. You are already being guided simply by your willingness to listen. In fact, the most powerful shifts happen when we stop trying to force them, and instead begin to flow with what is. So if something inside you has been whispering, "I think it's time," this is your confirmation. Not because the timing is perfect, but because your spirit is aligned. Trust that the same energy that moves the planets and shapes the tides is now gently nudging you forward. And like a lotus that blooms not by pushing through the water, but by allowing the sun to pull it upward, your path will unfold the same way, from within. Keep going. Not because you must, but because you can. And because deep down, you already know, you were made for this turn of the wheel. There are moments in our journey when we realize that the real chains aren't the ones placed on us by the world, but the ones we've grown used to carrying. When the devil appears in a reading, it often triggers discomfort, but not because it brings doom. Rather, it gently reflects what we've outgrown but have been too afraid to release. Maybe it's a relationship we keep returning to because it feels familiar, or a belief about ourselves we've repeated so many times it now feels like truth. But just because something is known doesn't mean it's right. And just because we've adapted to a cage doesn't mean we're not meant to be free. Today, Leo, you are being asked to look inward with compassionate honesty. The illusion of control, the attachments we cling to, even our ambition, these can become prisons if we let them define our worth. There is wisdom in recognizing that sometimes what once protected us now limits us. This recognition is the beginning of liberation. You don't have to burn it all down. You just have to be willing to question, with tenderness, what no longer fits your becoming. That's why the energy of the Empress is so important here. She doesn't demand change through force. She nurtures it, tends to it like a gardener preparing soil. But she also knows the importance of removing what no longer nourishes the roots. Before anything can bloom, the ground must be cleared. In your life, this may look like saying no to something you've tolerated for too long. It may mean choosing joy over obligation. Or letting go of self-criticism and replacing it with the steady voice of care. The Empress encourages you to see your life as a creative process, not something to be managed or fixed, but something to be grown. She is the reminder that true abundance flows when we stop treating ourselves like a project and begin treating ourselves like a garden. You are allowed to be soft and still powerful. You are allowed to feel safe and yet expansive. That is the space where growth becomes natural, not forced. Then comes the Fool, dancing on the edge of the unknown, heart open and unburdened. While some fear this card, in truth, the Fool represents the purest kind of courage, not recklessness, but trust. It's the kind of trust that doesn't need the whole staircase to take the first step. Sometimes, we wait for all the answers before we move. But life rarely offers guarantees. What it offers, instead, are invitations. The Fool reminds you that every powerful journey begins before you feel ready, and that readiness is not a feeling but a decision. This card is here to affirm that you don't need a roadmap. You need only a willing heart and a quiet knowing that you are safe to begin. And then we arrive at the Nine of Cups, the card of wishes fulfilled. But not just any wish. The Nine of Cups is the reward that comes after deep internal alignment. It doesn't reflect luck. It reflects timing, persistence, and emotional honesty. If you've been planting seeds in silence, showing up with integrity even when no one saw, trusting even when results were invisible, this card is your sign that the universe has noticed. That your devotion to your path is ripening into something deeply satisfying. You didn't get here overnight. And not everyone had the patience or heart to walk what you've walked. But you did. And that matters. This sequence of cards tells a story, not of triumph through striving, but of transformation through release. Letting go is not giving up, it's creating space. Space for peace. Space for purpose. Space for a version of you that has been waiting for permission to breathe. And sometimes, Leo, the most courageous act isn't to roar, but to quietly walk away from what no longer echoes your truth. The liberation you seek is already within. Now it's time to step toward it, with grace. Money, career, and health are often treated as separate realms, but the truth is, they're deeply intertwined reflections of our inner state. Leo, as someone who shines with bold expression and creative force, your relationship with these areas tends to mirror the rhythm of your heart. When your spirit feels aligned, energy flows effortlessly. But when it's misaligned, even abundance can feel out of reach, like trying to drink from a glass that's already full of old water. The past few weeks may have stirred questions around money. Am I doing something wrong? But perhaps the real question is, am I still tuned into the frequency of what brings me alive? Because money, at its most essential level, is not just a transaction, it's an extension of our energy. And energy responds to clarity, joy, and purpose, not just effort. So instead of pushing harder, consider shifting your approach. Reconnect with the simple intention behind why you want to receive more. Is it freedom? Security? The ability to share? Then bring that energy into your morning. Take 15 quiet minutes to visualize golden light flowing into your life, not as a fantasy, but as a focused recognition that the outer world always mirrors your inner state. When you feel lack, it's not always a sign to hustle harder. It might be a sign to reconnect with your inner fullness. Adjusting your financial vibration doesn't require drastic changes overnight. It begins with honoring your joy, because joy is the most magnetic frequency there is. Your career path, too, is part of this energetic conversation. When the Wheel of Fortune appears, it suggests a shift that you didn't plan but are being called to trust. A spontaneous offer, a returning opportunity, or even a new idea that breaks from what you thought was your safe path, it's all on the table now. And as someone ruled by the Sun, Leo, you're being reminded that leadership doesn't mean control. It means presence. You don't have to have all the answers. You only need to say yes to the movement that feels aligned. The universe never takes you backward, it only redirects you toward alignment when something isn't matching your frequency anymore. But even with this potential unfolding in finance and work, none of it can be fully enjoyed if your physical well-being is left behind. Leo energy is radiant, but that radiance requires rest to be sustained. When you give everything to others without restoring yourself, your light begins to flicker, not because you've failed, but because you haven't paused to refill the flame. Your body has likely been whispering subtle messages, the urge to disconnect, the desire for silence, the craving for stillness. It's not weakness. It's wisdom. Consider carving out sacred time, even just 3 minutes, to be with your breath. Feel it, not as something to control, but as something to witness. Each inhale, each exhale is a moment of return. Drink more water, not just for hydration, but as a gentle ritual of renewal. Reduce the noise around you, including the expectation that others must validate your exhaustion before you let go. That expectation is a trap. Rest is not earned, it's required. Just like a lion doesn't apologize for lying in the sun, you too deserve space to simply be. This phase of your life is not asking you to accomplish more. It's asking you to come back to balance. And when you do, you'll notice, the opportunities were never blocked. They were just waiting for the real you to show up fully present. When your money, your work, and your well-being begin moving in harmony, life stops feeling like a task and begins to feel like a rhythm. One you were born to dance to. Love, for Leo, is not just an emotion, it's an identity. You are ruled by the heart, moved by passion, and designed to express warmth in all its forms. Yet even the brightest flame needs a container, and for many Leos, that container becomes pride. Not arrogance, but a quiet armor built over time, often in response to past disappointments, betrayals, or simply the fear that vulnerability may not be met with the same depth you're willing to offer. But today, something shifts. The energy around you is inviting a softening, not a collapse, not a sacrifice of dignity, but an opening. An opening to reconnect without needing to be right, without needing to be impressive. Just human, just whole, just true. If you are in a relationship right now, consider the healing power of simple truth. Not dramatic speeches or grand confessions, just honesty. Say what your heart has been holding back. not to demand a reaction, but to offer clarity. So often, we expect our partners to read what we haven't yet written. But the soul thrives on directness. And what seems like a small misunderstanding may only need one sentence spoken from the center of your being to unravel. The stars today support heartfelt reconciliation, but they require sincerity. The more authentic you are, the more magic can find its way back into your connection. For those walking this season alone, know that solitude is not a punishment. It is a sacred clearing, preparing space for someone who sees not just your light, but the softness behind it. There is someone entering your field who may not dazzle in the same way you do, but whose presence will feel like exhale. This kind of love doesn't arrive with fireworks. It arrives with ease, with steadiness, with a sense of home you may not have realized you were longing for. And to recognize this person, you must meet them not with a performance, but with presence. With the quiet confidence that being seen requires only your willingness to be real. When it comes to family, the message is even gentler, yet just as profound. The connection that's been strained, the conversation that's been avoided, the wound that still feels unfinished, it doesn't need to be solved all at once. It just needs a door to be cracked open. Often, that door is a single word, hello. A gesture. A shared memory. You, Leo, as the sign of the sun, are the bringer of warmth. And sometimes, your light is the only one strong enough to melt the frost others have built around their hearts. Not because you have to fix them, but because your essence invites others back to themselves. That's the power of your presence when it's offered without pride, just love. There's a quiet teaching that says true strength is not found in how high you stand, but in how humbly you bend. In relationships, this means listening without needing to correct, offering without keeping score, and showing up even when no applause is guaranteed. These moments become the roots of the kind of connection that doesn't just survive difficulty, it becomes more beautiful because of it. So if your heart has been aching for reconnection, or if you've been waiting for a sign that it's safe to love more openly, this is it. Let love be less about proving and more about being. Let family be less about perfection and more about presence. And let connection be less about finding someone to complete you, and more about recognizing those whose spirits meet you exactly where you are. Today, the universe isn't asking you to chase anything. It's asking you to open your heart, your ears, your arms. Just enough for someone else to step closer. Just enough for you to feel what's already waiting. Golden yellow isn't just a color, it's a vibration. It carries the frequency of illumination, of insight, of realized potential. When you wear it, even subtly, you're aligning your field with the energy of self-worth and abundance. Not the kind of abundance that demands external validation or overexertion, but the kind that flows when you finally recognize that your presence alone is enough to generate value. This color acts like a mirror, reflecting the truth that success isn't something you chase, it's something you allow by embodying your own light. And today, more than ever, that light wants to be seen. The numbers surrounding you now aren't random. Numbers, like colors, hold vibration, and when they begin to appear repeatedly, they're not just decorative details. They're signals from the structure of life itself, gently nudging you to pay attention. The number 1 marks the beginning, but not just of something new externally. It's the start of a new way of relating to yourself. A decision to step into the role of the initiator rather than the follower of someone else's narrative. The number 8 invites you into alignment with power, true power, not control or dominance, but grounded clarity and sustainable wealth. When you act from a place of centered strength, financial and energetic resources naturally respond to you. The number 10 is both an ending and a beginning. It speaks to cycles that are closing so that new ones can unfold. It reminds you that even success has seasons, and sometimes what looks like loss is simply space being made for something richer. The number 19 feels like sunlight after the storm, a reminder that resurrection is not only possible but imminent when you trust the process and remain available to the light. Then there's 33, a master number that holds the energy of elevated healing and deep service. It encourages you to use your own journey, your lessons, your breakthroughs, as a source of comfort and guidance for others. You don't need to be perfect to be powerful. You only need to be honest. And finally, 55, the number of major shifts. It calls in transformation on every level. When this number begins to echo through your life, it's asking, are you willing to release the structures that once kept you safe but now limit your growth? This kind of change may come with discomfort, but it always arrives with purpose. You're being invited not to rebuild what was, but to redefine what's next, on your own terms. Affirmations are not magic spells. They are internal agreements. When spoken consistently and sincerely, they create a resonance that shapes how you interpret reality, and how reality responds to you. The affirmation for today: I am the creator of my life. I don't need to wait for miracles, I am the miracle, is more than a mantra. It's a declaration of sovereignty. It's the conscious choice to move from reaction into creation. To stop waiting for permission and begin acting from alignment. This isn't about forcing positivity or denying the challenges you face. It's about remembering that your inner state, your beliefs, your focus, your willingness to show up with presence, is the true architect of your experience. The outer world may seem unpredictable, but your inner world can be a sanctuary of certainty. And when that sanctuary is clear, calm, and courageous, it changes everything around you. So today, wear the gold, speak the affirmation, notice the numbers, and step forward knowing you're not just responding to fate, you're shaping it. If you're still here with me now, reading these final words, then I believe some part of you has already felt the glow beginning to rise from within. That quiet but certain warmth, reminding you that you were never meant to play small, never meant to hide your fire for the comfort of others. Leo, you were not born to be rescued. You were born to remember that you are the one you've been waiting for, not because you've done everything perfectly, but because you are present, honest, and brave enough to choose growth over fear, and authenticity over approval. May 17th is not just a date on the calendar. It's a sacred threshold, a turning point between the version of yourself you've outgrown and the one you're finally ready to embody. Between settling for what felt safe and stepping fully into what you know, deep down, you deserve. The universe is already reaching out, offering signs, signals, and synchronicities. But in the end, only you can choose to walk through the door that's opening. No one else can do it for you. So start small. Let your transformation begin with something gentle, something personal. Maybe it's writing down a dream you once abandoned, and giving it space to live again. Maybe it's forgiving yourself, for not knowing better, for not moving sooner, for just being human. Or maybe it's as simple as breathing in right now and whispering to yourself, I'm ready. And if you are truly ready, then I invite you to comment below with the angel number you felt most connected to in this reading. That number is more than a symbol. It's a promise. A marker in your journey. A moment where you chose to say, yes, I claim this shift. Or, if words don't come easily today, just leave a sun, a reminder that your light is not fading. It's rising. I want to take a moment, from the depth of my heart, to thank you for being here. For listening. For sharing your time and energy with me, with this space, and with yourself. Every like, every comment, every new subscriber doesn't just support this channel. It creates ripples of conscious energy that reach more souls than we'll ever fully know. Your presence helps eternal mindfulness grow, but more importantly, it helps this sacred circle of awakening expand. You are part of something bigger now. And your light, yes, your light matters. So, Leo, let me ask you, what will you do with this turning point? Will you let it pass like just another day, or will you claim it as the beginning of your becoming? What truth are you ready to stop hiding from yourself? And what would shift in your life if, just for once, you believed, fully, that you are already enough? You've done the inner work. You've felt the call. Now it's time to act, with softness, with strength, with intention. Stay with me on this path. Like. Subscribe. Share this message if it touched you, and let's continue to walk together toward the version of you that has been patiently waiting to be lived out loud. Because the door is already open. All that's left is for you to step through.